we've done this podcast for 2 years now with a lot of different personalities, and some people, not all of them, but some people just come in and they'll light up the room. People we never knew, never heard
Mhm.
of, just met 5 minutes ago, and it's like you can't create that energy. That's a real, authentic energy. Yo, yo,
What up? What up?
what's up, coworkers?
Hey, coworkers. Welcome back to another episode of the We Outside After Work podcast. I'm your host, Dana.
And I'm your favorite person in the whole wide world. It's your boy Aaron. What's up, y'all?
What up, guys? Okay, so we're just going to jump right into this episode with our icebreaker slash.
Hey, right into it. Hey, how are you?
Um, well, we just talked before this, but we
Nah,
wasn't
it's all
recording.
good. I just like
But
to.
okay, yeah, let's do a little, like a mini check in. How are you?
I'm annoyed. I'm very
You
annoyed.
seem annoyed. Why?
Um, you know how you get your taxes back and you be having plans for it, and you're like,
I
yo,
always pay taxes, so no, I don't.
all right, well, I had some plans for mine. First things first, new child support order. Slash that. Second thing second, blew out my tire. Realized I had to get 4 brand new tires plus a wheel alignment plus, you know how they be doing plus. But
They
it's
be
all
upcharged.
good. Yeah, so being broke ain't fun, especially when you felt like you was about to do a little something, go somewhere, see some things. But hey, it's all good. But I'm not annoyed. I just want to get that off. Child support's a bitch.
Yeah, what you mean is cut in half? Like, how does that work?
So the way that it works is it's a new order. So because it was a new order, it was pre-existing things that were old. So my thing is, I'll just pay it as I go instead of just here you go, here's a lump sum. Um, but I had to give them that lump sum, and they took it the
Yeah,
way they got it. So I looked at my account. I said, "Wait, this money ain't accurate. Like, what is this?" And they're like,
yeah.
"Oh shit." I'm a firm believer in child support. I don't know if you just seen Amon Shumpert and what's that girl name? The one that looked like a pit bull. What's her name? Tiana Taylor. I was thinking Tiana Trump, but Tiana Taylor.
I know
My
who you
thing
were
is,
speaking about, but
she a cute pit bull. She like,
I'm not going to engage.
it's not a bad thing. She just got a little rough face, but yeah. Sometimes you just gotta shell out that bread, and it is what it is. It is
It's
what
for the
it is.
kids.
Man,
For the
that's
kid.
TK. Say no.
Okay.
All right. So you ready to break some ice?
Well, I didn't do my mini check-in.
Oh, my
Damn,
bad. My
it's all about you. Anyway, I'm in an amazing mood. I've had a phenomenal week.
bad. Phenomenal.
There's a lot happening behind the scenes right now. It's a little too soon to talk about, so I'm kind of just internally celebrating. Like, I haven't told anybody, no family, maybe like one or two friends of like what's happening, but once things are solidified, I will share with you guys.
You even
But
share with me.
I just found out some amazing news today, and I'm just very excited. So yeah, kudos to me because I'm really that girl. Like, not even trying to sound conceited, but I really feel like once you internally tell yourself that you are elevated and you do the things needed to elevate yourself, like mentally, you start to really believe that and you live in that. So yeah, my advice is just, guys, like, do that internal work and really believe that you're that person that you're trying to become
We
because
love
it
that for
works.
you.
It really works.
I work at a really religious establishment, so one of my coworkers had brought up this interesting question. So I figured I'd bring it to you and I'll bring it to the people, see what they think, right? Would you rather have $10 billion or have a conversation with Jesus?
Mm, okay. So I feel like I talk to God and Jesus every day.
Do they talk back?
I get signs. I get messages, and I'm big on, well, because I'm a Pisces and we're very spiritually connected and elevated. My dreams give me answers. So I don't think I necessarily need like I would take the 10 billion. Is it million or billion?
Billion.
I take the 10 billion, to be
Yeah.
honest.
What you gonna do with
Yeah.
it?
I would do a lot with it. Like if I had even $1 million, I would definitely just
Go broke.
invest for sure. Huh?
Said go broke. Right, spend that million. Like, damn, what's a million to
Listen,
eat?
this week I done gave out some 401k advice and how to handle the market right now. Okay. So I'm low key a financial advisor out
Shout out
here.
to you. Let's get you a book, write a book, hook these people up, do a side hustle, a side podcast about helping people out. And we talked about you helping people with their trades and whatnot. So, hey, we
Yeah.
serious about this life. You feel me?
A
Um,
lot of people are, and like now is a great time to, well, I would say the past couple years to like learn how to trade and options trade. But now, like, because the market been falling like hard ever since some tariffs that your boy put into place.
oh,
Like,
Husky
no,
or
the
the
other
other
one, the orange one. Yeah. So, what about you? To answer the question, which one would you pick?
So, personally, I think $10 million is a lot of money. I could do a lot of beautiful things with it, help my people out, help my family out, wonderful things. But if we live on this earth specifically to give our life to Christ, to get to a place where eternal life is lived in the presence of perfection, then we should want to have that conversation with Jesus. But I'm not part of that we. I'm going to get this money. You feel me? I got shit to do. Jesus
Listen,
understands. He knows my heart.
you know what's
Like,
crazy? Yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody. This is the first like in person conversation I've ever had with them too, and it was a
mhm,
very deep conversation because they got into telling me how they grew up very religious. What is it, Pentecostal Christian? Yeah, and
Presbyterian Baptist, I don't know.
yeah, but basically, this is the most extreme Christianity, which, they got to read the Bible, they got to like live a certain way, they can't listen to secular music growing up. So he grew up in that kind of household.
Hmm.
And we got to talking about just how people live and morals. And one of the things he said, he was like, he knew people who went to church and who did good things solely based on the fact that
They can go to
they want
heaven.
to get into heaven. Like that
Hmm.
was a reason to get into heaven was like, well, I need to do these good things. But he was like, well, if that wasn't on the table, would you still do those things as a person? And that speaks for your character.
Yeah, that's
And
integrity.
yes, integrity, but I think that shows like a lack of integrity because I don't think it's you should do nice things for people, others, just solely based on the fact of you think after you pass away, I'm going to get into heaven. And then my rebuttal was I was like if God is the ultimate judgment, right?
Hmm.
Who's to say what we're doing, like what people do on earth, like who are you to say what's right and wrong? Like, yes, it is based off like a moral compass. And, to me, I'm like, and this may sound very controversial, but, the Bible is based off perception,
Hmm.
like who's reading it and then, what they're getting from that. And people take and leave certain things from it.
That
So
interpretation is crazy.
interpretation and my whole thing was you should have that internal integrity and do things out of the kindness of your heart and then when we pass away like we don't truly know what that looks like and where you go like it's all again perception. So that was the conversation and the fact that it was our first conversation I'm like, ooh, okay.
It's crazy because obviously we talk about work on this podcast a lot. And one of the things that I value in an employee is, do you do what I need you to do when I'm not here? Right? That's a human characteristic. That's a human trait. That's a positive trait. And I'll never forget, like when I was at Target, I had some haters that was they was just trying to sabotage me. You feel me?
Why
Um,
were they haters?
because I got hired for the role that this guy wanted, and they put him in a different position. He wanted to show them that he was better than me, so he would always do little sneaky shit. But what ends up happening though is when Aaron's not around, I'ma slack off, I'ma chill, I'ma do sneaky shit. But when I'm around, everything's perfect. It's
Hmm.
like how we talked about with the supervisor coming around and all that kind of thing. But it's like I value those people who I can literally leave and never come back, and you're gonna hold it down the way I held it down. Whether
Hmm.
that's as a parent, whether that's as a employer, whether that's as a teacher, a coach. Like these are qualities that humans should have. It's not a religious thing, and that's why I don't really. I'm not gonna say I don't bang with religion because I think religion is a great guideline, but I think people use it as a crutch. Like you don't need Jesus to tell you to be a nice person, and if you do, that tells me that you're not a nice person.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
just be nice, y'all. Be kind.
Yeah, that conversation, it is very controversial because when it does come to religion, people do have very strong views based off like their values within that religion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not knocking that at all. I just think like the person who I mentioned earlier, the issues came when he started questioning things as a child. Like he
Mm-hmm.
would, question certain scriptures, and even in church, like his mom would be like, "Yo, like chill out, like just relax." So, he kind of just strayed away from that lifestyle to where now he just don't know what to believe. But again, it just depends on your journey and your walk with God and what that looks
Right.
like. And I do think it is very personal.
And I think
Um,
that's a lot of us. Like we get to that point where we're not given the ability to have our own mind. I honestly think me being a little anti-religious as a kid is what made me so inquisitive and curious and make me want to get some answers and ask questions. So, shout out to him. I don't know who homie is, but I think I like homie. So,
I don't like him.
you know what?
He literally just asked me to go out again this weekend, and I didn't answer. This was like hours
All
ago.
right, so what we waiting for? Never mind. Our second.
Yeah, we not oversharing in this season,
No.
okay? Yeah. So,
Um,
all right. Well, we're gonna jump into our first topic, which did I? Yeah, I added this. Okay. So the question is trauma bonding always a bad thing? Now, I was listening to the interview that the artist Friday did on the Breakfast Club because he dropped his album at this point. It was probably 2 weeks ago. Friday.
never heard of him. Her,
Um,
it, but
he's real popular. He's Haitian, but he's like R&B, hip hop. Yeah. I only heard of him because he did a feature
the Breakfast Club. Oh,
with my boy Breezy, and then I
oh,
checked
okay.
out his music. I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good. But on the interview itself, I forgot what specifically he was saying, but yeah, the question is trauma bonding always a bad thing? I've always looked at it as a crutch, just like you mentioned with religion, just because I do feel like when it comes to getting to know people, especially in a more intimate relationship kind of thing, sometimes you do hold on longer because you had that trauma bond. Like, oh, you guys had similar upbringing where maybe, one of the parents wasn't in the household. So, like, that's like something traumatic and negative is
Mhm.
what keeps you guys stuck together. Or you've been through something together that's very traumatic. So, it's like if the relationship sucks, you're still holding on because it's like, well, we've
Mhm.
been through this, we did this together. But now I don't always think it's a bad thing because it is nice just to have someone to relate to on that level. But I do think if you solely are with that person based off a trauma bond and everything else is trash, then you should start to reconsider that
Now we
relationship.
talking about friends or are we talking about a significant other?
I'm talking about both.
Okay. I think this is a really similar conversation that we had with the social media friends, where it's like trauma is our connection. Um, like an anime is our connection. Like in Chris Brown is our connection. Like if our relationship, if our foundation is something so fragile, I don't think we can build on top of that. Now, it's nothing wrong with trauma bonding, but if you
Hmm.
have nothing beyond that, you're on a downward spiral, honestly. Like you need to find something else to help you connect. Find
Hmm.
different things that you like about each other than yeah, both of our dads weren't in our lives. Like that's
That's
not
what I just said, Erin.
I'm just using an example, but I'm just saying like people have to find other aspects of individuals that they like. Give me an 80-20 rule or something. Like, everybody should be more than just that one thing. And for some people, it's cool. Like, hey, you're the person I talk to when I want to vent about my dad. You're the one I want to talk to when I want to vent about my co-parenting situation. Do you know how many women
So
I've talked to about co-parenting?
I was actually going to ask you, like, do you have an example of a situation where you have trauma bonded and like it was just that tie that kept you to that
I think
person?
I think the easiest one that I see a lot of today is that single parenthood, where it's like, yeah, it's drama, yeah, it's stressful, yeah, it's annoying. I understand your perspective because mine is different. I understand my perspective because yours is different, and it's like we both have that same underlying issue though, and it's like, what else we got? Like, I
Hmm.
don't mind being somebody that you can vent to. I'm a great friend. I'm a good listener. But if this is all we finna talk about, like, yeah, I'll be a pen pal. Cool with
Hmm.
that. But I don't really want to sit here and have this emotional baggage, and that's it. Like, give me something else. Give me something.
Yeah, give
You
me
want to
some.
go eat some ice cream and talk about your favorite toppings? Like, you want to go to the amusement park and laugh a little bit? I don't want to be depressed with you all day.
Yeah.
So, do you like being depressed with people?
No, you know the level of peace I'm on, okay? So
Right.
if you are giving me any type of negative, even like, okay, so the person who I was talking about earlier, he was like, oh, I like him. There's an aura about him that I
Is it a
cannot,
negative aura?
it's like, it's negative, but it's also like, I don't know if you're like this because I'm someone new and maybe you have a
Hmm.
wall up, but, and I'm like, I can read people, mind you. I hope he never watches this, but he is a professional poker player. And to me, that was low key like a
Red flag.
because yeah, because it's like you can control your emotions
You're
very
a
well.
bluffer.
Yeah, and it's like I can't really read you, and I'm feeling that like orally,
Hmm.
orally,
Like,
orally. Is that a word?
it
Orally,
is, but I don't think that's what
not that
we.
kind of orally, but aura, like your orally,
Well, I
whatever.
keep you. Context clues
But you
matter
know
too.
what I mean. And when you first meet someone, you can tell if y'all gonna click,
Hmm.
right? Like you can instantly tell, and not it don't even gotta be on some romantic thing. It's just like, oh, I like you, we vibe. But with him, instantly it was like, here's my wall. And then when we started having that conversation about
Hmm.
religion, and he started like sharing a lot of like detailed things about his childhood and growing up, like I feel like that played a huge part of who he is now.
Hmm.
And I do feel like that comes with baggage, and that is that emotional trauma bonding that we kind of had at the table because we're talking about just different things when it comes to just spirituality and like why he's so against certain stuff. And
Hmm.
I don't want to trauma bond on a first date to that level. And then you have like this aura that I can't read. And I know the things that you're dealing with as far as like where you're at in your life. So that's why I was like, I don't think I want to deal with that because I'm
You
not
know
in
what
that
my
space.
you know what Maya Angelou said, right?
What did she say?
She said, something along the lines of people show you who they are and believe them the first time.
Hmm.
Like, it ain't about to get no better with this individual, and I don't
And
think it
that is
usually
my
does.
exact
Yeah.
sentiment.
Like, first off, if we on a first date and things aren't fireworks, if things aren't like looking up, I
Hmm.
don't need to ever talk to you again.
Which is why I was surprised that he asked me for a second date.
Yeah, because he
Because I'm
didn't
like,
read it the way that you read it.
did it feel like that to you? Because for me, it was given wall. Then it was given, I'm gonna
Mhm.
share a little bit. You cracked a couple smiles, and like I'm gonna make you laugh regardless, because that's just the kind of
Mhm.
person that I am. So we're like joking a little bit, but like he has this like stern, like rigid, like awkward.
Mhm.
So it was making me feel awkward
Mhm.
energy. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I can't put
So,
my finger on it, but I don't want to be around it again.
so when he asks you out for the second time, Were you able to give off this? I'm sorry, we're making this about you. I apologize. I
You
just
know
need to
I don't want
answer
to
this
be
question.
always.
I need to ask this question.
But
Did
I'm
you
I'm
tell him?
comfortable with sharing this part. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Did you tell him like? Not obviously. I don't want to go out with you again. Please block me, delete me, lose my number. Don't follow me on Instagram. Don't tell him all that, right? But did you tell him, hey, the energy that I received wasn't the standard of which I'm looking for at the moment. I kindly decline.
Basically, the day was yesterday, and my texting has been very sparse just based off that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And since the last time I responded, like he double texted me. He was like, "Would you mind going out this weekend?"
Mm-hmm. He likes you. Like I can see that. It's trauma bonding is a comfort mechanism.
But
So
I
if he's
think
able
like
to dispel that, then that's probably what he really likes about you.
yeah, but I can just tell like I would say for me I could take ownership where I'm not communicating any of
Mhm.
this to him. Like we haven't had a conversation about it.
Accountability.
Huh?
Accountability. I love it. Oh.
Yes. Yes. So I have not said anything, but it's also like if I know you're this person from the first interaction, I don't want to express that.
Mhm. Is there any value that he has outside? And this goes for any trauma bonding experience. Is there any value outside of a non romantic relationship with someone that you can have this experience with?
Like outside of, because even with the texting, it was like he's a big texter. Like he's
Mhm.
text paragraphs and we've had a couple phone conversations, but it just doesn't flow. Like
Yeah.
I could tell we're not equally yoked, number one. We're not on the same frequency as far as where we're at in life. Like I know the things that he's dealing with,
Mhm.
which, everyone is on their own journey, but I don't want to if I don't have to deal with that, I'm not going to. But also too, if like I can't even have those sparks, like the sparks ain't even here. So it's like, what are
Mhm.
we doing? So it just seems like a distraction to me.
I actually had a conversation with a homegirl recently, and she was asking a similar question. She was like, do I spend time getting to know people and eventually waste time with people that are not going to progress into anything? Or do I stick with the situationships that I know aren't going to be of note and just kind of deal with it because it's going to be the same amount of time wasted? It's
I have
like
thoughts
work.
on that though. Like I think that's different. Like I think if you can discern the difference between the value of somebody and, like you may even just be friends with them,
Mhm.
which is cool, but I know like with this particular guy, like I know what he wants. Like he's looking for long term, he's looking for somebody
The
to
kind
settle
of guy that they be wanting.
there. Huh?
They the kind of guys y'all be wanting. It's
They're the
just you
kind of
don't
guys
like
we
them.
be wanting, but like you have not even cultivated your own shit first.
Yep.
And then like the vibe ain't even there in person. So it goes
Cultivate
back
your
to what I was
shit.
saying before. Like, I don't know if he got more than two pennies, but like I could just tell like the energy is off of me. So I'm just like in my mind, I think I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out how do I put him down gently.
Damn, he's a dog. Euthanization on this thing.
Big dogs.
You know what? I think you just gave me a brilliant idea. I
That's
think
that's
people,
terrible. Hold on, I take that back.
I
Go ahead.
get you, but I think people should be able to get some kind. You know how people talk about whole facts, like show me their whole facts. I think some
What does
people
that mean?
legitimately need some kind of personality updates. Like, hey, you're a great financial provider, but you lack transparency. You
Mhm.
lack the ability to read a room. You lack interest. People don't know that they're not fucking interesting. People don't know that they talk too much. People don't know that they're annoying. People don't know that just because you got a lot of money, you're not an attractive catch. Like people need to
Mhm.
know these things about themselves, not just as a romantic partner, but as somebody who's getting hired for a job, as a friend, as a
And
family member.
do you think someone who realizes that from their point of view should tell them?
I think it's hard because I don't think we understand the difference between being honest and being brutally honest. Because how do we tell somebody the truth about their shitty characters, right? Like I think you suck as a person. How do I tell you that? And it's not that you're a horrible human.
Hmm.
You just might not be the person for the job.
Yeah.
So until you are, you need to do some improvement. Go get some licenses and go get some course credits and credentials to be a better human being. That's what I think society
But
needs.
then who's to say you're not a better, like a good human being? Like
I don't
we
know.
just said in
I
the
got a pretty good track record.
we just said in the beginning, like God is the judgment of all, right?
If
But
you
I
will.
would say for the person, like for me specifically, and the kind of energy I like to be around, which isn't always high energy, but to the fact where like it just flows naturally. We're laughing, we're
Mm-hmm.
just like whatever we're doing, the simplest thing, like we're just having a great time. And I've experienced that on multiple accounts. But I do know when I'm around someone who I feel like I'm the fun, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
pulling this out of you, and this is how I felt last night.
But you're also a fun person. Like, and I don't
Mhm.
say this just because we're in a podcast together, but you're a really enjoyable energy to be around. So I don't think that it's hard for you. I think it might be hard for another person that's in that space to be like, how do I match that energy? Like
Mm.
maybe I think I'm matching that energy. Maybe I think I'm amusing. Maybe I think I'm fun. I don't know if people know that they're not.
I think people they latch on to that energy. Like I do think if they are, and I don't like saying like frequency all the time, but that is a real thing. I think if they are just at a lower space in their lives where,
Mhm.
things may not be aligning and like you're just constantly just beating yourself up and low key just in a like a funk
Mhm.
situation or just point in time, when you meet someone who like you can just feel like their presence just picks you up,
Mhm.
and they can latch on to that, and that can be negatively where like they're just trying to hold
Mhm.
on because you are giving them what they need in that moment. But for that other person, it's like I don't need the extra baggage of you holding on for your
Right.
own benefit because I'm not benefiting from this.
And I think we experience that a lot. Like we've done this podcast for 2 years now with a lot of different personalities, and some people, not all of them, but some people just come in and they'll light up the room. People we never knew, never heard
Mhm.
of, just met 5 minutes ago, and it's like you can't create that energy. That's a real authentic energy. So, like, I remember the first time I met Jazz, uh, your former roommate
Dr.
Jazz.
Jazz,
Not
yeah.
Jazz was cool too. Guy Jazz was cool too, but
Yeah,
we
Dr. Jess.
literally.
Speaking
Mhm,
of, just a little side note, her
mhm.
birthday is Friday.
Shout out
She's
to her.
doing a karaoke night up here in Edison. And she hit me up. She was like, I don't know if I should invite Arian. I don't think he's gonna come because he lives in Atlantic City. And I'm like, well, did you
Well,
ask
I
him?
still have dinner to do with you first before I'll be making plans with anybody else. So,
Love that
just get my
loyalty.
life in order.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but
yeah, I told her not to reach out because I was
she can
like,
reach out. She can reach out anytime. That's
yeah,
the people's. That's the people's. I fuck with her heavy.
okay.
And I'm a karaoke guy. Like Celine
And that's
Dion
what I
is
thought. But I was also like, it's a Friday night. You might probably work in,
mm-mm,
and like it
I don't
may
work.
not align with your schedule. So
I don't work Saturday. So what's up? We out. We outside.
it's Friday.
Anywho's,
It's
but
Friday.
one of the things that we talked about is great energy. The
Hmm.
opposite is unmotivated people, dependent people, people who always feel entitled to your help. Why do people feel like that? Ooh, that's a sigh.
It is a side because I
Deep sigh.
know a lot of different people and situations going through this right now. And I want to talk about the flip side. Like, I want
Mhm.
to talk about the dependence and I want to talk about the entitlement that goes along with it. And I just don't understand that particular mindset and I don't want to. But if
Mhm.
someone is going above and beyond for you and helping you in ways that you can help yourself, but you choose not to help yourself in that way, and then what they're doing is either not enough, there's something wrong with it, or you just constantly are asking for more and you can never do for self.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, for the other person, I do think it becomes a mental strain, and it becomes up to a point where you're filling up somebody else's cup to the point where you have nothing left. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in that at all. I seen a clip of Iyanla Van Zant, and she was saying that, going back to the conversation we kind of had last episode about the selflessness, and she was saying how you cannot fill another cup if yours isn't running over. Like, you have to have yours running over to have excess and to have like more to share.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that quote because I think I live by that. Like, there's so many people in my circle that I'll be wanting to help, and I see different things I can possibly do, but I know for a fact I'm not where I want to be in certain aspects. So helping them will take away from the time that I need to get those things done.
I'm not a big fan of Iyanla. I've never liked her since like I was a teenager.
I think you mentioned
Um,
that before, like 2 years ago.
Her analogy, it's fitting, right? Because that's an ideal situation, but humanity doesn't work off of ideals, right? My cup doesn't have to run over for me to pour into another cup because I'm constantly getting a flow of new water. You get what I'm saying?
Not always.
I'm not saying always, constantly. If I have opportunity, as opportunity comes to me, opportunity comes to others. So
And
it isn't.
that's what I think that was what was missing. What I was
Mhm,
saying was, if you are getting opportunities,
mhm.
then yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's an overflow.
Yes.
I'm saying if you're
But it's
stagnant,
not.
but if you are stagnant in your cup, because we're gonna keep using the cup analogy,
Mhm,
and there's no one pouring, like you're not pouring more into your cup because you are trying to just figure out the next steps and like understand your skill sets needed to have more in your cup. But the person that is entitled, they keep
mhm,
drinking from your cup and pouring from your cup into their cup, and you're letting
mhm.
them because they are someone you may like really care about. Like, if there's no flow back into your cup, there's going to be a point where there's nothing you have left to give. That was
Yeah,
my
that's called masculinity. In all honesty, because that's how being a man operates, right? Our cup is constantly being poured out of, and as we pour into our cup, it's being poured out of. As it's poured into our cup, it's being poured out of, and that's what we sign up for, right? So, like I talked earlier about, yeah, this money came in and this money went out. That's how it goes. And it's like you tend to understand that as you grow in your sense of being a better man and being a provider for your family. Now, I can't speak for everyone else in that regards. Not just saying women. I'm talking about people who don't have the mentality that they're ready to be a provider or anything like that, right? But that's how life works. Like, it's always going to be somebody dipping into your inventory.
right, which is, I don't think that's how it works though. Like, I
Why
don't
not?
think it should work to the point where you have nothing left. Like, I do think if you have opportunities to help others and share the wealth in that, then yes. But if you're just constantly pouring in other people's
Mhm.
cup, and I'm basing it off a situation that I know
Yeah.
someone close to me who is helping a younger family member, and the younger family member is just constantly asking for things, constantly needing things without using, like, they have no disability,
Empathy.
they have no like something to stop them from doing the things
Mhm.
for themselves. But they know because it's easier for somebody else to do it, and
Mhm.
the other person is that caring and generous that they're like, well, let me put my stuff on hold for a second, help you out with all your stuff, but then you constantly need something
Mhm.
else done. And we had a conversation about this like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, well, you have to get to a point where like you've done enough to where they know how to do it themselves.
But excellence isn't reserved for everybody, right? We aren't all going to be wonderful. Like we aren't all going to be able to ascend to that next level to take care of ourselves. We aren't all going to be able to do that. One of my favorite books is The Giver, right? You ever read The Giver?
In high school.
Right. And then one of the main concepts of that book was as you're born, you're literally born into a certain subset category where you're going to be this, and this person's going to be that, and this person's going to be that. And honestly, the only way that you don't become that is if you break the mold, right? Most people are just going to fit the mold. And that's okay. That's life. There's gonna be a bum in the family. There's gonna be somebody that's not going to ascribe to be anything more than what they are. It's gonna be people that's gonna live with their mom and dad till the end of time. It's gonna be somebody that's gonna be like taking advantage over everything when they really don't have to. It is what it is. The issue is not the child or the friend or the person receiving. The issue is the enabler. Like, what am I going to do to stop you from taking from me? If I'm not doing anything to stop you, you're going to keep taking. And you should keep taking because clearly I don't give a fuck. And if I
Which
don't
is
give a
why
fuck,
I
why should you?
feel which is why I feel like the person who's being the giver and the enabler, like they have to set those boundaries.
But
So
some people get off of that. I'm not saying that that person does, but some people
I know they
love,
don't. Trust me.
yeah, they love to be able to say, look what I did for XYZ. And it doesn't always have to be financially. Sometimes it can be
It
helping
can
out around the
it
house.
can also be ego. Like it could be
Yeah.
like, oh, your ego gets filled when you feel like someone like you've done something for
Mm-hmm.
somebody else and like, oh wait, they owe you. That's a
Mm-hmm.
different scenario. All right, so then the power of a boycott was something that you wanted to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And are you boycotting? Do we have the same disciplines as those who performed the bus boycotts of the 60s? So what are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I think it looks good. It feels good. It's like, look at us doing something, guys. We're all working together for one day to tell Target to kiss our ass. And then tomorrow we can go back to Target. And I just think it's stupid. I don't see the point in it. It's to show that we can mobilize, and I believe that we can. We've shown a billion times that we can mobilize. We've done the Million Man March. We've protested for Black Lives Matter. We protested for George Floyd. But at some point in time, you got to do more than that. You got to do more than cry and complain and stand around with your fist held high and we shall overcome. Like at some point in time, you need to actually create change. And these boycotts show that a lot of niggas is just performative. It's like, look what we did, guys. And it's like, that ain't in no history books. It's just some shit to make you feel good about not buying some Tamala Brown, whatever her name is, stuff from Target.
Do you think like that's a start of
No,
change? Okay.
no, because what are you looking to gain from this? What's the legislation that you're looking to get from saying we're not going to invest our power of our dollar into XYZ? Are you looking to change the EI programs? Are you looking to grow a new political party? Are you looking to do something, or are you just looking to say, look what our dollar can do? We already know what our dollar can do.
I mean, I've heard different point of views on this topic. One in particular that I liked, I recently heard Jamal Bryant. He was speaking
Mm-hmm.
on different ways that we can collectively come together to help the cause, which I thought was a great idea. When he mentioned the boycotting of Targets and Walmarts, one of the things he was saying was that if you are a Black brand in these stores, you can always go to the site of the brand and buy directly. And then the rebuttal was, well, after the whole Black Lives Matter movement of 2020, that influx of sales fell because people stopped buying just solely like putting the dollar towards
Mm-hmm.
a black what
On
is this
business.
black owned business, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So then he was like, which I thought was another great idea. He was talking about how there's so many churches in Black communities and how they do have spaces where you can hold inventory. So it's like if we as a collective, had those conversations with the local churches and, like did things locally to help the overall bigger picture of the Black owned business, but that
Mhm.
also takes another level of unity too. So I think there's steps to it. And I'm not going to lie, I do like the fact that the conversations are being had and like there are small things being done and people participating in that. But then it's like, all right, well, you can't just stop. It's like, what's next?
Mhm. My biggest issue with this entire conversation is it's always circled around black people, right? Black owned businesses don't struggle because of black people. Black owned businesses struggle because white people don't consume them at the same rate that they consume white owned businesses, right? Because white owned businesses is looked at as the default. So they're not going to go to Joe's Chicken Shack versus Joe's Crab Shack because they know it's a negative establishment. I might go there if I want some soul food that day if I Google it. I used to work
Mm,
for Yellow Pages and they had things based on search engine algorithms, search engine optimization, right? And soul food was a low hanging fruit on a restaurant search engine option. It's not the same as like Chinese food, where Chinese food is some desirable cuisine.
well,
Black
if we're,
food
if
is
we're
not the
talking
same.
about if we're talking about Black owned businesses, and the main issue with that was how like our dollar doesn't circulate in our community. Like that was the main issue. So with that being said, like that's why it's based around just Black people and
Mhm.
Black businesses. So I think the conversation is just how do we keep that in our community, number one, and then just work as a collective to do that, which we did have, back in the day, and then different well, the white haters came and burned things down, like the Black Wall Streets and stuff like that. And that actually, the stories like that happened to thousands of different communities over the years in the
So
US.
let me give
So
you a different perspective on that,
wait,
right?
let me finish my point.
I thought you finished. I'm sorry.
Let me not finish. But the conversation is just keeping our dollar within the community instead of just constantly looking for like, oh, we need to be in a Walmart or a Target. It's like, well, how can we have those conversations in our community to help each other and then just circulate that dollar and keep it that way? But I think it's just like it's going to take a lot of work and a lot more conversation to keep going rather than just stopping. Like that was my whole thing.
Yeah. So, quick shout out to my grandfather. His birthday, March 6th.
He's a Pisces.
Yeah.
Shout out to your grandfather.
He always talked to me about the Newark riots. I don't know if you know too much about the Newark riots in the 60s. So, I don't know what happened if somebody like died from hands of a white guy or something like that. I gotta refresh my memory on that. But essentially, the city of Newark up in smoke. Everything was they was fucking it up, right? And they pushed out a whole bunch of white owned businesses in Newark and replaced them with a whole bunch of black owned businesses, right? Because we should be able to do this. We should be able to have an environment where we're able to fend for ourselves, take care of ourselves, work along ourselves, work together, right? But something strange happened when the Jewish corner store went out of business, when the Italian sandwich store went out of business. The wholesalers that would sell them merchandise started upticking the prices for the black owned businesses. So now
Mhm.
what ends up happening is that black corner store or that black sandwich store got to charge you more than what that Jewish store did, or that Italian store did, or that Irish store did. So then it came off like, damn, you my family and you doing me dirty. You doing me worse than the white man. So when we have these uprisings and we have these things, we continue to ignore this elephant in the room, that it's a white dollar and a white consumer that we still have to take into account. So when I say we worrying too much about the black dollar and not the white dollar, that's kind of why. Like
I think
it's a contributing factor to it.
it is a contributing factor, but I think it's a bigger conversation and it's a more in-depth
Mm-hmm.
thing regard than just surface. Like I think it
Right.
goes deeper than Black owned business. It's like, well, who's controlling the wholesale and who's controlling, that we talk about tariffs, like
Mm-hmm.
everything now is going up because like tariffs put on Mexico and Canada.
Mhm.
And now things that we buy here are going to be more expensive. So it's just a bigger, more, it's like state, federal, and so forth.
And then
So,
at the end of the day, who do it hurt? The low man on the totem pole every time. But what we need to learn is some patience. We need to learn patience in life. It is very important. It's a skill we need to have in all aspects, right? So
yes,
tell me how Dana has acquired such skills in patience.
patience has, I don't want to say never. I want to say right now, it is becoming my strong suit
Hmm.
because, it is the way you speak and how you say certain things. Like that's who you present. So I'm going to say it wasn't my strong point before, but now I think I've learned a lot more patience
Hmm.
and I'm speaking as like planting the seeds for certain things that I want to bring to fruition. So, things that I've done recently, what I mentioned in the last episode about just the hard work that you need to put in, right? Like when it comes to finding a new job,
Hmm.
finding a partner, buying a house, like whatever you're trying to do, and you are doing the things necessary to fulfill those goals. And you just have to learn that it's not going to happen overnight. Like it's that instant gratitude popcorn mentality, like
Hmm.
that's not a real thing. Like that is a social um construct that I think came about from social media and like just seeing different people having all these lavish things that you want and think you deserve, but you never put in the work to receive any of it. So when it comes to patience, that was something that I think a lot of people should take into account because it just takes time for the things that you want to come to fruition and build that foundation and just take the small wins as like big wins in the grand scheme of things. And I'm there. Like I'm definitely in a space where today specifically has shown me that, girl, those no's that you done got back to back and you thinking people playing in your face, which they were, but there was a bigger picture and a bigger path waiting that God's timing then brought to your attention.
You said something like so important, and I don't know if you live by this, but being in a retail space, the word no is so important. Like you get so much out of that because it's an open ended answer, right? Is it no because of this? Is it no because of that? Or is it just no? Right. And we always treat a no like it's just a no. And it's so much more than that. It's like, no, if you work on this, or no, if you look into that, you can do so much more. So I use retail as an example because at TJ Maxx, we used to have to do X amount of credit cards per month. Right. And I would tell people, how many credit cards can you get after 100 no's? Right. If you do 100 no's, you should receive 20 to 30 credit cards. If you do it correctly, if you listen, if you understand the customer, if you give the right type of outlook and mindset. And when I give people this guidance and this training, they would be more successful, right? Because it's not always about immediate gratification, instant gratification. Sometimes somebody just don't want some shit, or it's just not your time. But when it is your time, you'll be ready for it. You'll be prepared for it. So, oh, I didn't know what that was. Was that tea?
That's me clapping. You couldn't
Oh,
see it back here because of my background. I had
yeah.
to pull it up.
But it's like people have to recognize there is power in the no. Like I actually have it in my book that's coming out in a couple months, years,
You've been
days.
saying you're writing a book since
It's in one of my
2010.
chapters. The value of the word fucking no. Like it's so
Yeah.
important.
And
Um,
it's so important. And
I wasn't finished my thought.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now go ahead. Go ahead. Just cut you off.
But it is hard to hear no. I do want to say that.
As
Like
a
the
woman,
whatever.
I'm messing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But the level of like it is like an ego hits for sure when you hear no for something that you really feel like, yo, this is it. Like, this is my time. Like, I'm ready. Like, you could say all of that. Like, you could say, this is my time. But is it truly your time? And I think the way to know is when something comes fully packaged and you have to prepare. Like anything you do, you just have to keep preparing. That's the thing. Like you have to keep going. And the preparation in that and that just perseverance and tenacity for me, like that shit is the hardest
Mhm.
part. It's just to keep going when you just like, yo, this is all I got left. And it's really not
Mhm.
all you got left because it's a mental thing. Like physically, you can't keep going. Mentally, you can, but you have to push through that for real. And I think that is the most important and that really builds that character development for that next stage in your life of who you want to become. And yeah, like that shit is not easy, but I do feel like it happens in the timing it's meant to happen.
I'm unfortunately painfully patient. Like, I probably penalize myself a lot in how willing I am to wait my turn. How willing I am to know, like, all right, you just keep going, keep persevering. And it's like, at some point in time, it's like, how much fucking perseverance do I have left? Right? But that's the
Yeah,
test, right? That's the test, is to see what
that's the
your
lesson.
mettle is.
Yep.
Um, but I've had moments in my life where it's like, go with your gut because your patience isn't always rewarded. And I'll never forget when I was at Kane, I was on the track team. I don't want to toot my own horn and say I was the best person on the team, but I'm going to say it. I was the best person on the team.
To
And
you.
yeah, toot, a
No,
bunch
I
of
said
toots.
to you, like to
No, no,
you.
no. In Kane University history, I was probably the best athlete of all time.
You need to pull up these
Um,
facts. You always talk
I
about
can
it.
pull up the stats, but anywho's, I'll never forget the first year. It was the athlete awards, like athlete of the year, blah blah blah, this and that. So now, mind you, I was the New Jersey Athletic Conference rookie of the year. I qualified for nationals. I did all of these things that no one in school history has ever done, right? So when the moment came when the coach was supposed to pick the athlete of the year for at least the track program, he didn't say my name. So I don't want to say I was upset, but I was taken back a little bit. I'm like, damn, why wasn't it me? So in this moment, I was young, I was brash, I was arrogant. I needed to know, like, you got to give me this answer because I can look at the stats. And bro wasn't shit compared to me in the 4 years he been here. And I've been here for 6 months and I'm kicking everybody ass, right? So I'm like, what's up? So my coach tells me, don't worry, Aaron. You're so good, you'll get it next time. Just wait your turn. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm
Hold
gonna wait
on.
my turn.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Did he tell you what about the other person made him
He
win?
just he just said he was the team captain. He had his best year that he's ever had. He earned the stripes. Great, all of that. Dude was trash, trash. But I accepted it because what else I was gonna do? It can't. It's still an award from somebody. So the next year comes, and I didn't have my best year, but I'm still national qualifier, champion, broke records, literally doing everything better than everybody. But I didn't do what I did the year before. And then he gives it to a freshman.
Hmm.
So I'm like, you just told me to
Were you as
persevere.
good as you thought?
I, you check the stats. You can persevere. You can be patient. And then you just gave it all away. And I'm like, is this my patience being rewarded or are you playing in my face? So what I would tell people who are seeking patience is don't be a fool. Right? Don't let people play in your face for promotions or for a relationship or for anything of that matter because you're being patient and you're giving somebody time to grow or somebody the opportunity to see you for you. Like fuck that.
Can I go?
Yeah.
um, You mentioned in relationships and promotions, the relationship conversation, that is different. Like when it comes to patience, don't just wait around for some bullshit when you know clear as day is not there. Okay. So that's just something we as women specifically need to stop doing. So
Work for Ashanti.
I'm gonna just leave it at that for me because we are coming down to the wire. We
Mhm.
57 minutes in and we got time for our happy hour moment. This hour always goes by so fast when we're like deep in conversation.
And if you hungry, niggas food getting cold.
Oh, you hungry?
I'm not hungry. I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
You don't know what's going on over here.
But yeah,
Okay.
what's your happy hour moment? You go first this time.
All right. Just a lot of great things. So I got invited to be the speaker for a financial literacy workshop this Saturday at a Newark high school. So it's going to be a women's luncheon from the grades 12 to 12, 9 to 12. And I will be hosting the financial literacy piece, and I will be talking about using money more responsibly when it
Mhm.
comes to credit cards and
Hmm.
debit cards.
Call
Okay.
me.
So I'm excited for that because today I finished all of the preparation and my slideshow. And then I'm also going to give the students a cheat sheet to take home with them. I asked the coordinator to print out 50
Mhm.
copies. He never answered. So I'm hoping he has that ready for Saturday because my printer don't work. And yeah, that's my happy hour moment. Like, I think I'm just ready to just step into my greatness and just live in that abundance of what that looks like all around, which is empowering young women and girls. So that's my happy hour moment.
Shout out to the little boys that need empowering too, but it's all good.
They had theirs back in September.
Oh,
So,
that's
yep.
my happy hour moment is I won a championship this weekend as a coach for Jaden's eighth grade team, South Salem County, rural champions or some shit like that. I take credit because his coach was on some bullshit, and Jaden was on some bullshit. Like he was ready. As a parent, it's like sometimes I don't want my kids to curse, but I can understand why the F this and F them and everybody sucks. I can get it.
Who was talking like that? Jaden?
It's okay. He's growing. um,
He's like 10.
but what I realized in that moment is I'm fully capable of propelling individuals into out of body experiences, right? Where I can get you to be better than you were yesterday. And I can motivate. So for all those unmotivated people that are enabled by Dana's family members and friends, come talk to me. I could hook you up and I could really help you
They
because
talked to me for that advice.
well, that's clearly why we do this podcast because we can put people in positions to really do better in life.
Right.
Um, and I was just really proud of those boys because it wasn't an easy game. You know, they fought and they had to scratch and claw and they had to work together even when things weren't going their way. And that's what this is all about, right? Whether it's patience, whether it's enabling, whether it's all the things that we talked about today, even if it's your religion, sometimes shit don't go right, but it's gonna go right. So that's all I got.
Yes, and if you wanted to go right on our podcast, you can email us at woawpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, we trying to do this with a guest because I love talking to Dana, but I also like some other perspectives, right? So let's get some guests on this. Let's see what y'all got to say. Let's see how y'all feel. But we
So,
working on some.
since we're speaking of guests, two things. First thing, the guest that we had Justin twice
Mhm.
on our podcast with Jarrell, and then he did his one on women paying for dates.
Without the beard, right?
Yes, the one who we're not going to talk about his beard, but I'm assuming it grew in more because this is 2 years ago.
Okay.
But anyway, he hit me up a couple days ago because he was at it was like a soft opening launch of a podcast studio closer to me. And he was like, I instantly thought about you, Dana. So I plugged your name,
Mhm.
and he sent me, like, he did a warm email of like me and his counterpart who owns the studio. I haven't responded back, but I will. And shout out to him, because the fact that he's having conversations about me in a room that relates to what I do, and he knows that it's closer to where I live, like, I just thought that was very thoughtful. So shout out to Justin. And then two, someone who was also on our podcast, I don't want to say their name, but they mentioned that when it comes to guests and just visually seeing a podcast on YouTube or listening to it, usually the virtual look isn't that appealing, just because like in person it is more of like a
Mhm.
conversation. Like they can feel that energy
Mhm.
just viewing. And I agreed, and I was like, we're still trying to figure that part out and just figure out the kinks, but until then this is what we have as of now. So I do think that may be a reason why guests may not be that inclined, and maybe like why our views aren't as high as they used to be when we were in a studio.
Yeah. But I raised my hand because Justin is an example of what that integrity piece looks like. And shout out to him because he's a God fearing man. He's the deacon or something of the church. I don't remember what he
He's the
was.
elder.
Elder, right? Um, what he exhibited is exactly what we talk about, right? You don't do this out of wanting something from us and for wanting something from us. You just do it because you want it for us, or at least for Dana. I can't speak for me, but I appreciate that because that tells us that he's a good person outside of any of this, right? It's so many people that legitimately will share every single thing that we post, not because I ask them, because the people that I ask don't. But for those people who do, like, we appreciate y'all. We see y'all, and that goes a long way. So shout out to our coworkers. Shout out to our previous guests. Shout out to those of you who support us. Shout out to y'all who don't. Like, at the end of the day, you don't have to watch. If you don't want to watch, click that X. If you do want to watch, click that subscribe, click that like, leave a comment.
Yes, and on that note, we outside and we out.